Alright, chickadees, today we are drawing hands, yay! What you probably need is a pencil. Maybe not a freakishly weird long one that says Great Scott, but a regular pencil will do, and a mechanical pencil is fine as well, as long as it's got a eraser on the back end. Sometimes we make mistakes, you know? If you're a heavy-handed person, I actually highly recommend a mechanical pencil. It forces you to draw a little bit lighter. Alright, so let's talk about the basics of a hand first. We are not going to put our hand down and trace it. That is stupid, and we don't want to draw turkeys today. So we're actually going to look at the inside of our hand. Obviously, if you are right-handed, you're going to be looking at your left hand, so just do the opposite of what I'm doing. And you will notice on your hand that you have your palm, which is mostly inflexible, it's pretty solid, and then you have your thumb here, right? So notice this is a box, and then your thumb is kind of like a triangle that comes off of that box, and then your fingers all together make a nice little mitten shape, and your thumb is kind of off there doing his own little thing, doing his little dance. So we're going to draw this and break it up into nice simple shapes so that you don't get too stressed out about all the complexities that happen with hands once we actually start posing them. So we're going to draw a box. Yes. And then we're going to draw a triangle coming off of that box. I want for the triangle to be about halfway up the height of the box here. Now I'm going to take the height of this box. I can actually measure with my pencil by doing this and then moving it there and saying that's where my top finger is going to go, and say that this here is my fingers. Cool? And I'm drawing it like a nice little mitten. Now my thumb here, if I squeeze it in, some people have weird thumbs by the way, goes to about this height, so I'm going to draw it like this. Cool? Also, notice that this creepy little doodad right here, this squishy little bit, is going to help soften some of the curves, especially between your fingers here as well. Cool? Alright, our wrist, we're going to draw as a box. It's the one flexible part of our hand that allows our hand to move. However, you never want to bend your forearm. That would mean that it's broken, and that would be scary. You don't want to draw noodle arms. You only want for the wrist to be able to rotate. So let's go ahead and draw a small box for our wrist. That's where it rotates. And then here is my forearm. Cool. Now the other interesting thing you will notice is I have 3 fat pads on my hand. I got this one, and then this one up here. Cool. So we're going to draw those lightly here in the hand. The most important one is this one. The reason why is because when I make a fist, all of a sudden it's right there. It's a nice juicy boy. So this one here, interestingly enough, is a muscle that can be built up if you're like a pianist and you have really, really wide reach, which is kind of creepy. Notice I don't really have much on my hand there. And then this here is kind of where your knuckles sit on the opposite side. If you feel your hand right here in the middle, it is freakishly thin and you can feel the tendons and bones, and it's like, ugh, really creepy. So it's kind of like a nice little triangle shape that fits in the center there. All right. You know you got 4 fingers, but that means you're drawing 3 lines in here to actually break up your fingers, okay? So 1, 2, 3. Don't draw a 4th line, because then you'll be drawing a weird alien person, okay? So that is a really, really good start. What I want for you to do from this point now is actually draw the hand for real. This is a guide, okay? This isn't like a beautiful finished hand. So let's go ahead and start with drawing some of the fingers and actually look at your hand while you draw. And go like this. And get that finger in. And then like this. Notice I have a little bit of space between my fingers. They're not glued together. And if my guide isn't working for me exactly, then I'm just using it as a guide, right? I don't have to force things to fit perfectly inside of it. So here's my last little pinky finger. Here's the outside edge of my hand here. Cool. I have little creases here. And I have creases here. And here. Cool. I have lines on my hands, which I, at some point, actually knew what the lines meant according to palm reading stuff. One's like your lifeline and your heart line and your love line or something. I know one of these lines suggests if you're going to have babies or if you're going to have something traumatic happen in your life. So you'll have to look that up online. I can never remember what's what. And so let's draw a couple of these lines on the hand. This one usually helps define this fat pad area here too, which is nice. And then you usually also have a couple of wrinkles around your wrists. Okay. And then let's actually draw our thumb. And I'm actually looking at my thumb when I'm drawing it, okay? I'm not just making it up or drawing a blob. I want to actually look and see what my thumb is doing so I can make the best informed decision. Yay! There's my first hand. Cool, not bad. I'm realizing now because I'm drawing at a bit of an angle, I could have made these fingers bigger. These fingers are pretty small in comparison to my palm, but that's okay. That's our first go at it. So, now we're going to talk about fingers. So notice with my finger, if I hold it straight, it's basically doing this, okay? This is totally straight, and these are 3 lumps, yes? If I have a bent finger like this, it's basically doing this. These are 3 totally straight lines, and those are 3 lumps. If I try to draw lumps on the back sides of my fingers, where it's basically bone, you'll end up drawing something that looks kind of like boop. Ew, gross. Ew, don't do that, okay? This is good. The other thing that you need to keep in mind when drawing hands is many times you're not going to be looking at hands straight like this or straight like this. You're going to be seeing it at some weird, interesting angle, right? So when you see it at some weird, interesting angle, you want to start with the finger that is closest to you first, and then the next finger, and then the next finger, and then the next finger. At some point, you might not even be able to see these other fingers, in which case then you really just need to draw a couple of them and know that the other ones are behind and you don't have to worry about them, okay? The other important thing to remember too is that the palm box is always a box. It's never going to turn to a blob or anything weird, but the wrist will do super, super weird, strange things, so that is not always a box. Alright, so let's try drawing our hand in an interesting pose at this angle. So what I'm going to do is I am going to draw my palm box first because we are looking at it from the side. I'm going to draw it skinnier, right? You can see here, that's my palm box. And then I'm going to draw my thumb triangle coming off of it. Cool? And now I can see that my thumb is going off in this direction. I'm not going to try to draw my whole thumb right off the bat right now. Instead, I'm going to draw my first finger coming straight up. And taking what I've learned right here, I know that the back of my finger is going to be straight and the inside of my finger is going to have a couple of lumps, right? So there's my finger. And then I'm going to draw the next finger behind it, right? So I'm going to draw straight, straight, straight with lump, lump, lump. And I can see a little bit of the other fingers behind, but not very much. From my perspective, yours might look a little different. Cool. And now I can go ahead and actually start to draw a little bit more of the details of what I see for my hand. So I see my thumb here like this. My thumbnail, which I'll talk about nails in a second. This is in front, so I'm going to make sure that it really is in front. Cool. And here's the actual back of my hand. And like I've mentioned before, this palm box sometimes is like different angles and doing different things, right? So if I want for the arm to go this way, it's going to be a triangle like that. Now at this point I might say, oh, it got too tall here and I want for that to be shorter. You can do that. You can make adjustments as necessary. Cool. The other thing I neglected to mention is that for fingers, this last digit, you want to find the halfway point, and that is where the nail goes. So same thing here, digit, halfway point, that is where the nail goes. And you see how that doesn't look too freaky? I recommend sticking to that. Even if you have somebody with long nails, maybe just draw it like this first and then try putting a little extra coming off. They can look really weird though if you get like into little baby nails or long nails. So just a generic nail is good enough for me. Now the other thing that's super, super useful is being able to draw a hand holding something. So let's draw my hand holding this. Yay, cool, right? So once again, this is close to a fist position happening right here. Okay, so I'm still going to draw my palm box, and then I'm going to put fingers and stuff on top of it. And this little fat pad right here is muy importante. We don't want to forget about him. So I'm going to move my hand kind of over here, and I'm going to do this in an awkward way so that you can see as much as possible. So I'm going to draw my palm box still. Yes? Now my wrist is coming down at this angle, so that means that my wrist box is a triangle and my actual forearm is doing this. Cool? I can go ahead and draw this fat pad of my hand because it's going to help me find a lot of things like where my fingers go and stuff. And then off of this here, I can go ahead and start to see my thumb holding this handle of my mug. My fingers are going to be here, and I'm going to break them up into 4 simple shapes first that I can figure out later. Look at that little baby finger, it's overlapping. Cool. And then I can go ahead and draw some of my actual handle here. All right, so that's my base, right? That's just there to help me. If I need to adjust it and draw details, I can do that now that I actually kind of know where my hand's gonna go and what's going on. So I can already see here, I'm gonna end up moving my thumb a little bit so that it looks closer to the way I'm actually holding it here. And I might end up drawing my pinky because it's on top of these other fingers. So I might do that one actually first. So let's go ahead and start with the thumb since I feel really confident about where that's going to go. It needs to go more here. Right? And I can erase what I don't need anymore. And I can say, oh, my handle, it's gonna go right here. And maybe I'll even draw like that so I really know where it's gonna go. Okay, so now I've got my finger back here. And here's where my fingernail goes. And then here's my next finger that's behind it. Notice how much easier it is to draw because I already know that the pinky's on top. So there's my knuckle. And there's the end of my other finger there. Nail goes about here. Cool. And next finger gets a little squeezed right in here. There's my knuckle. There's my finger. I'm gonna touch this perfectly. There's the nail. Cool. And then here's my last finger. It's gonna fit nice and snug right inside of there. There's the nail. And there's. Alright. Now I can also tell, even though it's shadowy and kind of dark back in here, there's a lot of wrinkles going on. My hand's working really hard to hold that mug because it's heavy. So I want to make sure to get some of those lines to show what my hand is actually doing back in there. Also notice the wrinkle in my wrist here. Because my wrist is turned, it's going to be more obvious and not so obvious over here on this side where it's stretched out. Alright, so there is my hand holding my favorite mug. Cool. I want for you to also do a couple of hands holding objects. Now in the handout I gave you, there's a lot of examples. If you're really struggling, you can copy one of the examples. However, I wouldn't recommend it. It's a lot more satisfying to use your own hand as a model and draw from that. Especially for your final project, since you want to draw your own hand holding an object, you might as well practice in real life anyways. Cool? Alright, so there is a couple of hand basics. I hope that helps clarify. If you have any questions, I'll be on GChat and all that as per usual. So I'll catch up with you guys soon. Bye!